Since the invention of photography, numerous mysterious photos featuring unexplainable things have been taken. So from a pilot who intercepted a UFO and disappeared to a young girl who is terrorized by a poltergeist, here are 5 mysterious and unexplained photos. Of the many accounts of UFO sightings, photographs and videos, the sensational reports that originated in Gulf Breeze, Florida are some of the most controversial. Gulf Breeze was a small city of approximately 6,000 at the time of the wave of sightings that began in the winter of 1987. News of UFO photos spread rapidly and became a worldwide sensation. Though many cited the elusive flying craft and snapped photographs of the glowing lights, the majority of attention was on Edward Walters, a local building contractor. According to Walters, the sightings began on November 11, 1987. He was working late that night when his attention was drawn to a light coming from his yard. As he went to the window to get a better vantage point, he saw a glowing object partially obscured by a 30-foot tall pine tree in the front of his yard. Racing outside to get a clearer view of the object, he was taken back by the sight before him. It had a row of dark squares which were separated with portals between them. The craft seemed to hover just above the road, showing a glowing ring around its bottom. Ed ran into his house and grabbed his Polaroid camera. He snapped off several photos of the craft before deciding to get even closer. He headed into the road. As he paused in the street to take more photos of the strange object, it began to hover almost directly over his head. Walters was hit by a beam which was shot from the object. He was literally lifted from the ground by its force. It was then he heard a voice say, "Don't worry, we will not harm you." Images then began to appear in his mind. In an effort to find the answer to the controversy of the Gulf Breeze UFO mysteries, a group of locals banded together in 1990. Within the first month of operation, the group had already reported a sighting of a glowing UFO with red lights, moving in an erratic fashion through the skies until it finally disappeared. The group would also report other UFOs in the months to come. Although the still images of Ed Walters were the highlight of the UFO wave of 1987 to 1990, there was also video film taken of unknown objects, and not all these came from Walters. The Gulf Breeze sightings are still discussed today, though most investigators view the Walters photos as hoaxes. This does not, however, explain all the photographs, videos and sightings. This area in Florida is still considered a hotspot for UFO activity today. In 1977, a family who lived in a council house in Enfield, UK began a terrifying ordeal when a poltergeist took over their lives. The phenomena experienced included knocking on the walls, furniture moving, fires igniting and a child levitating. The family consisted of divorcee Margaret Hodgson and her 4 children, Margaret aged 12, Janet 11, Johnny 10 and Billy 7. The paranormal activity started one night when the 2 girls were in bed. A chest of drawers started shuffling towards them. Their mother went upstairs to see what the commotion was. The girls were told to get back into bed and stop messing around. With that, the chest of drawers suddenly launched forwards. The mother pushed it back in place only for the chest to immediately move forwards again. The family was kept awake all night with strange noises and knockings. The following morning, exhausted, the family went into the neighbour's house and described the night's events. Vic Nottingham, the neighbour, went into the house to see if he could explain what was going on. He too heard the noises and said the knocking followed him from room to room. The phenomena continued. The family experienced knocking on the walls, objects thrown at them, furniture was moved, fires would ignite and extinguish themselves spontaneously, and Janet would be thrown out of bed and made to levitate. One of these incidences was witnessed by 2 passers-by, who stopped in amazement to watch Janet levitating horizontally in her bedroom window. A priest and a medium were called in. They could do nothing and the knocks and unusual movements of the objects continued. On one occasion the mother was so scared by the events and was at such a loss of what to do she called the police. When they arrived on the scene they witnessed a chair levitate. It was then suggested that paranormal investigators should be brought in, and so began an intensive study that was to last for many months. The paranormal researchers recorded over 2,000 unexplained events at the house. Electronic equipment would occasionally refuse to work inside the house, but operated perfectly as soon as it was taken outside. Also, pools of water would suddenly appear around the house. Late one evening when the children were asleep in their rooms and Maurice Gross was downstairs compiling his day's findings, he was disturbed by the sound of Janet screaming. Maurice ran to the foot of the stairs only to see the young girl apparently being dragged through her bedroom by an unseen force. She was then hauled down the stairs and dumped at Maurice's feet. During the later months of this haunting, the phenomena took an unexpected twist when one day the family was in the living room and suddenly a dog started barking even though they didn't own a dog. Maurice decided that if the entity was able to produce a bark, perhaps it could be coaxed into speaking. He began asking questions and to his amazement the entity answered. The answers came from Janet. The voice was strange, deep and guttural, and very much sounded like that of an old man. Investigation showed that to produce such a sound, the voice would have to come from the false vocal cords situated deep in the throat. To speak in this way is painful and damaging, and to speak in this way for any length of time is said to be medically impossible. The voice was recorded on many occasions. Janet was seemingly possessed. The spirit claimed to be that of a man called Bill, who said that he was the previous occupier of the house, and stated that he died of a brain hemorrhage in an armchair in the living room. A recording of the voice was played to the deceased man's son. He confirmed that voice was his father's. The paranormal activity at the property lasted for approximately 2 years. It ceased as suddenly as it started. This mysterious creature washed up in 2006 on a beach in Sakhalin, an island in eastern Russia near Japan. Found by Russian soldiers in the area, it was estimated to have once been 20 feet long and covered with hair or fur. Tests at the time failed to conclusively determine what the creature was, and it was thought to be a sea monster, plesiosaur or some other prehistoric beast. Now, years later, it may have been identified. Shortly after, the 15-foot remains were found. The bones and teeth were examined by Russian scientists who determined that the creature was not a fish, alligator or crocodile. There's no indication that they checked to see if it was anything else, allowing speculation to run rampant that it was some sort of sea monster. The fur or hair was puzzling, and the decayed condition led to theories that it could have been much larger when alive. According to recent analysis by marine biologists, they have determined that the remains belong to a beluga whale. Belugas are Arctic whales, and while the females are only 9 feet at maturity, males can reach up to 15 feet in length. While some accept this theory, others point out that it had hair. Only young belugas have hair, and this is definitely an adult due to its size. Also, many question why it took 8 years to finally identify the creature. Belugas are often the go-to animal when mysterious sea creatures are found. Let me know what you think it is. On November the 19th, 1995, Wem Town Hall burned down to the ground. Tony O'Reilly was one of the onlookers who took photos of the scene. One photo showed what looks like a small, partially transparent girl standing in the doorway. Taken with a 200mm lens from across the road, it was only after the image was developed that O'Reilly saw the little girl. He claims there are no special effects on this picture. Upon discovery of the ghost in the photo, he immediately sent it to the Association for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena. They sent the photo and negative to Dr. Vernon Harrison, a former president of the Royal Photographic Society. Dr. Harrison analysed both the photo and the negative, and reported that he was satisfied that the picture had not been altered and no special effects were used. Harrison said, "The negative is a straightforward piece of black and white work, and shows no sign of having been tampered with. Legend has it that in 1677 a fire destroyed much of the town, and a young girl was said to have set fire to an old thatched roof with a candle. Her ghost has haunted the area for centuries, having been seen by different witnesses." Examination of the negative proved the ghost picture to be authentic and not tampered with. However, Greg Hobson, the curator of photographs at the National Museum in Bradford, said, "This postcard offers pretty conclusive proof that it is a hoax." Mr. Hobson said the technique used to produce the doctored photograph was probably similar to one used by mediums who purported to capture images of spirits with their relatives during the relatives' consultation as a way of boosting their credibility. Although many agree the photos are similar, they point out several differences. In 1953, Lieutenant Felix Moncler was stationed at Kinross Air Force Base in Michigan. An unidentified flying object appeared on radar, and Moncler took an F-89 Scorpion interceptor to investigate. Ground radar operators reported that Moncler's aircraft flew about 500 miles per hour and closed in on the object while crossing northern Lake Superior from west to east at 7,000 feet. Ground control tracked Moncler and the unidentified object as 2 blips on the radar screen. The 2 blips on the radar screen grew closer and closer, until they seemed to merge as one. Assuming that Moncler had flown either under or over the target, ground control thought that moments later the Scorpion and the object would again appear as 2 separate blips, but they didn't. Operators claim that when Moncler's aircraft merged with the UFO, they both disappeared. A search and rescue turned up nothing, and no debris or wreckage was ever found from either aircraft. So that was 5 mysterious and unexplained photos. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more countdown videos.